failure of this twin strategy. Adani's decline is an indication of the failure that is there. Because this strategy is a very unstable strategy. Because you don't have control over the international short sellers. So if you continue with this strategy, because our markets are now open, they're global markets. Tata's borrow from abroad, others borrow from abroad, money is round trip back. So markets are all open, they are global. So international finance, you cannot control. So while you can control LIC and State Bank of India and what they do, you cannot control the Hindenburg, you cannot control the Soros and so on. And they will take advantage. So therefore, this kind of manipulated growth that is seen in the case of Adani's, and the kind of thing that you see for Tatas and others, that has the potential that it can really damage the Indian stock market, the investment pattern in the Indian economy. It will bring down the investment climate. The rich people are already leaving in large numbers because they find that their companies can be taken over. If they become very profitable, somebody will come and say, So, like, as you know, the Bombay airport, how was it taken over? They were raised by ED and the income tax department, and then within a month, the airport was sold. Okay. So this kind of thing, the signals are there. So in other words, this strategy is a very bad strategy for the country because it will create a huge instability in the economy, and that instability will create a problem. So we need to understand all these things. So with that I stop, and if there are any questions, then I can take.
थैंक यू सर। अब हम क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं, एक बार में 3-4 क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं आपकी तरफ से। कोई भी अगर कोई कमेंट हो, कोई क्वेश्चन हो, फिर उसके बाद सर उसका जवाब।
Thank you so much, pleasure listening to you. I remember watching your interviews of Black Economy, and then now I'm privileged enough to sit in front of you and listen to you. Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible? Yeah. So my question is like one of the major repercussion of the crony capitalism is inequality. So talking about the inequality concerning the current economic scenario, so the 10% of the Indian population solely are accounting for the around like 58% of the national income. So I mean, at the same time, we can't also deny the fact that there is this huge, great Indian middle class that has been emerged, and there are thousands of people who have been uplifted out of their poverty. So, sir, how do you see this inequality in the next 30 years? Is it just going to be widespreading, or is it actually going to be lessening with the economic growth that's happening if the claims of the government is true? So, the second question is like slightly.
Let me answer because it's not one question, you asked 4 questions.
So, it's a student point
Let
of
me
view.
answer this, then we'll come back to your further
It's a
question.
normal question, sir. So, I mean, what are the few areas of economics that you would suggest to a particular economist if you have to?
Suggest for what?
Considering the current economic scenario that you would suggest to your students, like if you
For
have.
job. For job you mean?
What's that?
For job or for study of economics?
For study of economics,
Study of
yeah.
economics.
There is a period.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So let me, since there are already 4-5 questions that have come, let me answer these and they may answer other questions that people may have. So first about inequality. In India, we don't really measure inequality. There are 3 kinds of inequalities. So I had a paper recently, about 6-8 months back, in which I said there is inequality in consumption, inequality in income, and inequality in wealth. The consumption inequality is the least. Okay? Because after all, poor people have to live. And the rich save a lot. They consume only 1 or 2% of their income. So, I mean, if you think of somebody like, say, Ambani's, if they have a 10,000 crores of income, they'll consume 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore. Okay? So, as a percentage of their income, they're consuming very little. So, consumption inequality is the least. And the Delhi Socio-Economic Survey of 2018, that showed and that's pre-pandemic. That 90% of Delhiites spend less than 25,000 rupees per month. Okay? 90%. And 95% spend, 98% spend less than 50,000 per month. Now 50,000 rupees per month is where the income tax begins. So 98% are below the taxable limit. So Delhi's per capita income is 2.5 times the All India per capita income. So this, if you divide by 2.5 rupees, 90% Indian families are spending less than 10,000 rupees, and 98% are spending less than 20,000 rupees per month. Okay? So that shows you that our middle class is negligible. Our upper middle class is also negligible. Hardly 5% is what middle class of the middle class is. But 5% of India is huge. 5% of 140 crore is 70 million, which is the size of Germany. So in a very poor country of 1.4 billion, you have Germany sitting. But this 5% is not like German middle class. Because our per capita income is 1/30th of the German per capita income. So what we call middle class in India is not as per the international standards. It is by our, somewhere which has got some purchasing power to buy some consumer durables. So our middle class is not very large, first thing. Second thing is, consumption inequality is less than the income inequality. Why? Because above the consumption you are saving. So rich are saving, poor are hardly saving. So the rich, as you are more and more rich, you save more and more. What's called the savings propensity rises. So income inequality is much higher than the consumption inequality. And wealth inequality is even higher. Because the poor people are dis-saving, they have no saving, they are indebted. Whereas the rich people, they have been accumulating over generations their wealth. So wealth inequality is the highest. Now, when we talk about wealth inequality, the data that say Credit Suisse puts out or Oxfam puts out is only about the white economy and largely from the financial sector. Because real estate is a lot of black. So you don't get the true valuation. So in my book I've shown that if the disparity between the top 3% and the bottom 40% is say 12:1, if you include black, it becomes 60:1. So the real disparity comes out of black and not out of white economy. Because the black economy is concentrated in the hands of 3% of the population. So none of these data, Credit Suisse, Oxfam, include the black wealth. Real estate, how much money you hold abroad, and so on and so forth. None of that is included. So disparity in India is one of the largest in the world. Otherwise, South Africa has huge disparity, Brazil has huge disparity, but our disparity is higher than that. So India's disparity is not truly measured. And therefore, that's the first thing. Second is you mentioned great middle class. It's not a great middle class. The middle class is very small. As I said, if you look at the socio-economic survey, the middle class would not be more than 5% of the population. And this is reinforced by the fact that 94% of the workers are in the unorganized sector, where the wages are way below the organized sector wages. Okay? And the government was forced to set up the e-Shram portal. Because the Supreme Court was scolding the government, you don't know how many unorganized sector workers are, how many people are migrating back. So they set up the e-Shram portal about a year back. So in November, the data which came from the e-Shram portal, 28 crore registered, and of the 28 crore, 94% said they are earning less than 10,000 rupees per month. And what is the World Bank poverty line? World Bank poverty line has been raised from $1.9 per person per day to $2.15. And the rupee has declined, so it's 176 rupees. Okay? So all these people are below the poverty line. Okay? Now you can say we shouldn't go by international poverty line, we should have our own poverty line, we should do PPP, etc. But still, very large percentage of the unorganized sector is below the poverty line. So in other words, the middle class is very small. So while we claim that we've lifted people out of poverty, it's really not that many people that we have lifted out of poverty. if you go by the e-Shram portal data, if you go by the World Bank poverty line, the international poverty line, etc., still a very large number of people are poor. And the point is, suppose your poverty line is say 300 rupees per person per day. Suppose you earn 350 rupees, are you not poor? You still are poor. You may not be below the extreme poverty line, but you remain poor. So large percentage of the Indian population remains poor. They are in agriculture, they are in the unorganized sector, they are in the micro sector, they are the pavement dwellers who don't have a house, who don't have a roof. It's a very large number of people who are very poor. So what to look forward to? If this twin strategy continues, then poverty will persist. There will be an upper creamy layer, okay, which will do well, but poverty will persist. So therefore, this twin strategy is going to create greater and greater instability, because this 94% which is in the unorganized sector will not have adequate purchasing power to be able to increase consumption. And that's why RBI data, and mind you, RBI data is from the organized sector only. RBI data on consumer confidence, okay, shows that pre-pandemic the consumer confidence level was 104. During the pandemic, it declined to about 30.